The midday sun hung mercilessly over the African savanna, casting sharp shadows across the golden grass. The ground shimmered with heat. Along a lonely paved road, vehicles raced by, tourists and locals alike, their windows rolled up, music playing, eyes fixed on the horizon. None of them noticed what lay just beyond the shoulder of the road. Hidden behind a patch of dry bushes, a mature lion lay collapsed on his side. His powerful body, once a symbol of dominance and pride, was now trembling from exhaustion and pain. A deep wound stretched across his flank, the blood already caked into his fur, dark and stiff. Flies circled above him, drawn by the scent of injury. He blinked slowly, his breath shallow. Beside him, pressed tightly against his ribs, was a tiny lion cub. The cub let out soft, high-pitched mews and nuzzled its father, confused and frightened. It pawed gently at the lion's face, licking his muzzle, as if begging him to move, to roar, to rise, to take them home. But the lion couldn't even lift his head. The world moved on. Cars zoomed past, kicking up clouds of dust. No one saw, no one stopped, until a single car suddenly braked. The tires screeched slightly against the road, and a man stepped out. He stood for a moment, shielding his eyes from the sun. Then he saw it, the flash of gold in the grass. His face changed. Slowly, cautiously, he approached the lion and his cub, one step at a time. The man crouched as he approached, careful not to alarm the lion or its cub. He could now clearly see the wound, a jagged gash along the lion's ribcage, likely from a fight, or maybe even barbed wire. The lion's eyes opened weakly. For a brief moment, they locked eyes, man and beast, and the lion didn't growl. He was too tired, too beaten. The cub let out a high-pitched cry and climbed over its father's foreleg, trembling but not running. The man's heart clenched. He knew that if he left now, the lion wouldn't survive another hour in the blazing sun. And the cub? It wouldn't survive at all. He stepped back slowly, pulled out his phone, and called for emergency animal rescue. His voice was calm, but his hands shook. He gave his location, then fell to his knees near the edge of the road, keeping his eyes on the lions to make sure no curious driver would veer off and hit them. Cars still sped by, completely unaware. Minutes passed like hours. Then, the sound of a vehicle approaching fast. But this one wasn't passing by. It slowed, then stopped. A dusty green Jeep with rescue markings rolled onto the side of the road. Help had arrived. The rescuers moved swiftly, yet with a calm precision that came from experience. One of them slowly approached the lion, crouched low, hands open. The lion let out a deep, broken growl. Not of warning, but of pain. The cub hissed softly, but stayed beside its father. The man who had first found them didn't step back. He knelt close to the rescuers, offering information, describing the wound, even helping to open the medical pack. He couldn't bear to walk away now. He had started this, and he would see it through. The rescuers administered a tranquilizer, just enough to keep the lion from panicking during treatment. Slowly, the lion's breathing steadied. A gauze pad was pressed to the wound. The blood had begun to cake under the sun. One rescuer checked for internal injuries, another whispered to the cub, trying to keep it calm. Then came the most delicate part, lifting the lion onto a stretcher. The cub, frightened, began to cry out. The man, unsure what else to do, sat beside it, placing his hand in the grass nearby. The cub crept closer and pressed against him. It trusted him. Within minutes, the lion was secured inside the back of the Jeep. The cub was lifted gently and placed beside him. The doors shut, and the man stood, covered in dust, heart racing. The fight wasn't over, but the lion had a chance now. The lion was transferred to a specialized wildlife clinic on the edge of the reserve. The team worked for hours, stitching the deep wound, checking for broken bones, and cleaning the blood matted in his fur. Though the injury was serious, the lion was strong, and he had something to fight for. His cub. The little one never left his side. In a quiet pen, the lion lay resting, IV fluids running into his paw, his breathing slow but steady. The cub nestled against him, licking his face and letting out soft, high-pitched sounds, like cries or maybe songs. Staff members looked on in silence, moved by the bond between them. The man who found them visited every day. He wasn't a vet, but he learned how to help, cleaning the cage, talking to the lion in hushed tones. The cub began to greet him with happy little jumps, and slowly, the lion's golden eyes started to stay open longer. He began to lift his head, even growl softly when someone he didn't trust came near. Each day brought progress. The wound closed, the limp lessened. But even more incredible was the way the lion looked at the man. Not with fear, not with wildness, but with something close to gratitude. And for the man, it was life-changing. In helping this lion, something had healed in him too. A few weeks later, the man who saved the lion found himself in trouble. Returning home after one of his shifts at the shelter, he was involved in an accident. He was rushed to the hospital. His injuries were serious. Now he was lying in a hospital room, hooked up to a ventilator. The nurses said he was conscious but barely moving. When the shelter staff found out about this, one of them, with trembling hands, contacted the clinic where the lion was still being kept. Was there any point? Who knows if he would understand? But they decided to try anyway. The next morning, a cage appeared in the hospital parking lot. A lion emerged from it, majestic but cautious, with his grown cub beside him. The staff held their breath as they escorted them through the corridors. The nurses stopped in their tracks when they saw the predator and only nodded, letting them pass. The door opened. The ward was quiet. The man lay there, barely moving his fingers, surrounded by tubes and instruments. The lion approached him slowly, his eyes softened. He raised himself to the edge of the bed, growled softly, and lay down next to him, almost touching his hand with his muzzle. The man struggled to open his eyes. And he saw, not a doctor, not a nurse, but his old, saved friend. For several minutes, the lion simply lay nearby, silently watching the man. It seemed to sense his breathing, weak but alive. The cub whimpered quietly at the door, but came closer when its father let out a soft roar. Together, they lay down by the bed. The doctors watched through the glass, amazed. The wild lion had not come by chance. He remembered. He missed him. He was there. The man raised his hand with effort and touched the mane. The lion's eyes closed. A moment of silence, and something between them connected again. Without words, but deeper than any words. Since then, the lion has been coming to the hospital. He lay at the entrance while the man recovered. And when, weeks later, the man went outside, the lion stood up, approached him, and pressed his forehead against his shoulder. The city remembered this story for a long time. A story of true gratitude and eternal connection.